Hey, hi and welcome back. So this is basically the last video of capacitor series. Now let's complete this series with this video, which is Introduction to Capacitor Part 6. So now let me tell you what you will learn in this video. So the first point is capacitor value calculation through hole. So TH actually stands for through hole. So in this point, I will show you how to calculate the value of through hole capacitor. Okay, so I will discuss the entire procedure to calculate the value of through hole capacitor. After that, the second point is capacitor value calculation SMD. So here I will show you how to calculate the value of SMD capacitor. Okay, so this is how basically we are going to cover this video. Now let's start with this video. So now let me show you how to calculate the value of a ceramic through hole capacitor and electrolytic through hole capacitor. Okay, so I had these capacitors with me. So let's calculate the values for all these capacitors one by one. So first of all, let's consider this capacitor, and on top of this capacitor, if you see 103 is written. Okay, so let's calculate the value for this capacitor. So I will write 103 here. And the procedure is like, first of all, you have to consider the first two digits of the capacitor. And so let's consider these two digits. So you have to write them as it is. And then the next digit is actually going to be the multiplier. So I will multiply this one by 10 to the power 3. And after that, you have to multiply it by 10 to the power minus 12. Okay, so whenever you do the calculation for the ceramic capacitor, you always have to multiply them at the end by 10 to the power minus 12. Okay, so now let's resolve this equation, and after resolving this equation, you're going to get a 10 into 10 to the power minus 9. So that becomes 10 nanofarad. Okay, so this one is a 10 nanofarad capacitor. Okay, after that, the next value is 104. So I will do the same procedure. 104. First of all, I will consider the two digits. Okay, so it's going to be 10 into 10 to the power. So this is going to be the multiplier. So it's going to be 10 to the power 4. And after that, this one is going to be 10 to the power minus 12. As I told you, every time we have to multiply it by 10 to the power minus 12. So you have to remember that. And after that, this gives us 100 nanofarad. Okay, or you can also write this one as 0.1 microfarad. Okay, so that's basically the 100 nanofarad or 0.1 microfarad. And after that, in this capacitor, if you see, there are only two digits. Okay, so straight away you have to multiply these two digits by 10 to the power minus 12, and that gives us 22 picofarad. Okay, so that's basically the 22 picofarad capacitor. And after that, now let's calculate the value for this capacitor, which is 471. So I will write 471. And after that, let's consider the first two digits. So it's going to be 47 into 10 to the power 1 into 10 to the power minus 12. Okay, so it's going to be 0.47 nanofarad. Okay, so this one is 0.47 nanofarad. Okay, and in the end, this one is going to be 33 picofarad. So 33 into 10 to the power minus 12, that gives us 33 picofarad. So this is how basically the procedure is to calculate the value of ceramic capacitor. Okay, ceramic through hole capacitor. After that, whenever you will deal with the electrolytic capacitor, most of the time or almost every time, the value of that particular capacitor will be written on top of the sticker. Okay, or on top of the covering. So you can see here, this capacitor has got a value of 100 microfarad. Then this one has got a value of 220 microfarad, and after that, this one is 470 microfarad, and after that, this one is 1000 microfarad. Okay, and along with that, along with the value of the capacitor, you will observe that they have also given the voltage rating. So whenever you will get the electrolytic capacitor, you will get three different parameters. The first one is value of capacitor, then the voltage rating of capacitor, and the temperature range in which that particular capacitor can be operated. So this capacitor, you can see it's written 85 degrees Celsius. So you can operate this capacitor max up to 85 degrees Celsius. This capacitor you can operate up to 105 degrees Celsius, and it has got a maximum voltage rating of 35 volt. Okay, so if you provide 40 volt to this particular capacitor, then this capacitor will get blasted. Okay, In the same way, for this capacitor, the voltage rating is 16 volt and the temperature is 105 degrees Celsius. And for this capacitor, the voltage rating is 16 volt. Okay, so that's all about the electrolytic capacitor. And now let's go ahead. So these are basically the ceramic capacitor, and ceramic, or you can also call it as MLCC, which stands for multi-layer ceramic chip capacitor. And whenever you will purchase the ceramic capacitor, you will observe that the value of that particular capacitor or any kind of text marking will not be present on the capacitor. Okay, so if the capacitor got mixed or if you misplace the capacitor, then it's hard to find out what's basically the value of that particular ceramic capacitor. Okay, so there are actually two approaches to get the value of the capacitor. The first one is by using the multimeter. So the multimeter that you will use, in that particular multimeter there should be provision to measure the capacitance of capacitor. And after that, the second method is to use the LCR meter. Okay, so there is LCR meter which are actually available in market. So using that, we actually measure the value of capacitor. Okay, so just by looking towards the capacitor, you will not get idea about what's basically the value for that particular capacitor. You have to use the multimeter or you have to use the LCR meter. And when you purchase these capacitor, they're actually going to come in the form of reel. Okay, we have already discussed how exactly the reel look like when we discussed the SMD resistors. So in that reel, the capacitors will be placed, and you will get a packet in which that reel or cut tape reel is actually going to come. Okay, and on top of that packet, it will be written what's basically the value or what's basically the package for that particular capacitor. Okay, so that's how we get to know what's the value of that particular capacitor, and you will never find any text or any kind of marking printed on top of capacitor. Okay, so that was all about the multi-layer ceramic chip capacitor. After that, the next capacitors are tantalum capacitor. So again, when you calculate the value of tantalum capacitor, you have to use the same approach that we used in case of ceramic capacitor. So first two digits are actually going to be the significant digits, and the third digit is actually going to be the multiplier. So it's going to be 10 into 10 to the power 7, and after that you have to multiply it by 10 to the power minus 12. So that gives us 100 microfarad. Okay, so that's basically the value of this capacitor, 100 microfarad. And this one is positive terminal. You can see here, this is the marking, and this one is going to be the negative terminal. Okay, so that's basically the 100 microfarad capacitor. Now let's calculate the value for this capacitor. So it's going to be 68 into 10 to the power 7, and after that into 10 to the power minus 12. So that gives us 680 microfarad. So this capacitor has got a value of 680 microfarad, and this one is positive and this one is negative terminal. After that, in this case, it's going to be 47 into 10 to the power 7. Okay, and after that, the multiplier 10 to the power minus 12, that gives us 470 microfarad. So that's basically the value for this capacitor. This one is positive terminal and this one is negative terminal. And you will observe one thing here, not every time on top of the tantalum capacitor, the voltage rating for this capacitor will be written. For example, on this capacitor, if you see, the voltage rating for this tantalum capacitor is given. However, in case of this tantalum capacitor and in case of this tantalum capacitor, the voltage rating is not given. Okay, and it's very important to follow the voltage rating in case of tantalum capacitor, otherwise they actually blast very violently, and you may also damage your eyes. So you have to be very careful about when you use the tantalum capacitor. Okay, if the voltage rating is 16 volt in case of tantalum capacitor, then you have to operate below this voltage rating only, otherwise this capacitor will get blasted. So that was all about the tantalum capacitors and how to calculate the values for tantalum capacitor. So I hope that you got every single thing that we discussed in this video. We discussed how to calculate the value for through-hole capacitor and how to calculate the value for SMD capacitors. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell in this video. I hope that every single thing that we discussed in this video is now clear to you, and if you still have any kind of doubt, then definitely you can ask me. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell in this video. Now I will see you in next video, which is about introduction to the hardware.